Welcome again to another exciting episode of OAG Hangout. I am Andy Rue, 42.
And I am Complete Links.
And we've got some special guests joining us tonight. We've got the Hive Mind and Mr. Ernie, Mr. Maestro. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I'm doing pretty well, too.
Ernie's doing well.
You mean everybody's doing well?
Yes, everybody's doing well, but I wasn't sure.
We all doing well.
Yeah, we're all doing well.
He, she, we are well.
It's true.
Woo! What's tonight's topic, Andy Rue?
Tonight's topic is the self-deprecating tongue.
You're going to say deprecating?
Oh my.
Okay.
Self-deprecating tongue. You know? So to translate that,
yeah, translate that.
You know, we've talked about the tongue, the mouth, the words that put people down, other people down. But you know, what about putting ourselves down? If we looked at the things that we said to ourselves on a daily basis, would they be lifting us up, or would we say those same things to other people that we say to ourselves?
Right. That's the question. Because ultimately, the self-deprecating tongue talks about how little we think of ourselves. Like it's all about our self-worth, mostly.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the pages that we were reading, the topic at hand there. And Links, you want to run us through that? Kind of some scripture and...
Yep. Yeah, so, I was actually just in the process of pulling that up while I was listening to you guys.
Cool.
We've got a few stories we could dig into first. Let's do Exodus 4, 10, and 11. Does somebody want to read that?
Exodus 4.
Yeah.
To the Bible.
The next one is going to be Judges 6, 11 to 16 if somebody else wants to pull that up.
All right, Exodus 4, 10, and 11?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is by one of my favorite authors, God, so listen.
Nice.
Exodus 4, verse 10 says, Then Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. So the Lord said to him, Who has made man's mouth, and who has made him, who makes the mute, the deaf, and the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, the Lord? 10, 11.
Yep. So what was Moses' weakness there that he was expressing, his limitation that he was, putting himself down for?
Okay, can I interject here?
Yeah.
Okay, now typically when we read this passage of scripture, it's because he says I'm slow of speech. We are led to the conclusion that he may have been someone that stutters when he talks. From my own personal studies, I've come to the conclusion that he actually had a hard time articulating the language of Egypt because he had been so far removed from it. So when he's talking about slow of speech, it wasn't that he was stuttering or not very good at talking. He simply couldn't recall the language as well because he's been removed from it. So there's a little bit...
I wasn't actually going to go there at all, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, especially since I know that is true, that a lot of people do interpret it that way.
Gotcha. Then what?
But I definitely wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't going there. No. But what he was still deprecating,
right,
and he was still being self-deprecating in that moment. So what was he being self-deprecating about?
Well, I mean, basically that you see this burning bush out in the middle of the desert, and it's burning and it's talking, and then you find out, hey, this is God. This is the God of my ancestors. If he can talk through a bush, maybe he can help me to speak correctly. And to say that, there's some faith involved to be able to say, hey, well, I guess if we can do that, he can do this. And,
Right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he was basically just saying, Lord, I can't do that. I'm not very good at that. Like,
Mhm.
not putting any trust in God. Like, that's not what God asked.
That's it. That's it. That
And,
the trust in God was non-existent, but he was also putting himself down and saying, and in like mind, he was saying, I'm not a son of God. God's not going to work through me, So
Right.
really, he's being disbelieving
Hmm.
in God's abilities in general, which
Right.
is probably the bigger sin in that instance. But
Absolutely.
still, it started with the self-deprecating stuff for
Mhm.
sure.
And we see that with other Bible characters too. They're like, why
Oh
have you
yeah, we're gonna
chosen
get
me?
into that.
Like, I'm not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into that next. Does somebody have Judges 6:11 to 16 ready?
I do not, but it will take just a minute for me to get there because I know where it is.
Does somebody else? Andy Rue, would you like to pull up Jeremiah 1:4-7?
So right now I have Judges 6:11 to 16, and
What
it's
version is that?
the NKJV.
No, we're not going to read that one.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I don't have it ready.
Okay, that's all right. Let's see. I will do Judges. I will do, because I actually have it open almost to there. Okay, this is the NLT. Then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree of Oprah, which belonged to Joash and the clan of Abiezer. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." "Sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us, and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." This is the good part. "But Lord," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family."
man.
The Lord said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. God was like, "Yep, truth bomb."
Yeah. I got Jeremiah here.
Go for it.
It's from the NLT. Jeremiah's call in first vision. The Lord gave me this message. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Somebody want to get that call? And before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. Oh, sovereign Lord, I said, I can't speak for you. I'm too young. Ooh. The Lord replied, Don't say I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you. And don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you and will protect you. I, the Lord, have spoken. And is that it?
Okay, so the
Yeah.
last one's kind of obvious. Jeremiah was saying, "I'm too young. I can't do this."
I'm too young to talk.
And what was Gideon saying? Couple
Too
things
weak.
there.
We're too weak.
Mhm.
Too small.
And I am the weakest of the weak.
Right. Yeah, I'm the you're basically asking the guy in the who's not able-bodied.
I know.
It's like
I
he
feel
would
that.
not he would not get he would be in what's that, group W, or not group W, but what's the group they put you in if you when you back when they were doing the draft and you weren't fit to go in the army.
That's a good question. I have no idea. Like J or something? It's basically where you could work for the army if you stayed home. At home, like locally, basically. I know what you mean.
Oh,
Or there is one where basically you're the backup of the backup of the backup of the backup, but you've been accepted but also denied because you are too weak, basically.
mhm.
But they will call on you if they need you, basically. When you can still be drafted, but then you get a draft card that says, by the way, hey, you can't be drafted anymore, at least here in America.
America, that's how we do it.
America.
We like
All
our
right.
people spry and ready to fry.
Let's not go there. All right, so back to the self-deprecating tongue.
I guess that was self-deprecating too.
A little
right.
bit of America.
A little bit. Sorry,
Yeah.
America. Still love you.
Yep.
It's a love-hate relationship, but we're
No,
good
it
for
should be
now.
a love relationship because
Hey.
okay. Anyway, back to the lesson. We're gonna cut that one out later. Describe one of your own perceived limitations. Okay, this is like for those that are here, this is rhetorical. But as those who are listening, you may want to write this down. Describe one of your own perceived limitations that has kept you from feeling adequate and has kept you feeling inadequate, unqualified to pursue any endeavor that you have thought of.
You know, I'm really good at naming negative things about myself.
I know, aren't we all?
It's like, well, if you ask us to name a good thing, I mean, we could probably. I think I thought about that enough, but I think a lot of people would have a difficulty even naming good things about themselves. But for me personally, I'd probably say imposter syndrome. For you know, like, oh, am I really this good? Am I really able to do what I've been kind of trained to do? And you know, I hope I don't fail.
Kind of selling yourself short.
Yeah, not knowing how to kind of be honest with your personal talents, and not to the point of boasting, but like it's kind of like making a resume, just being honest with like, hey, this is my experience, these are my skills, talents, abilities, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Right.
What about you guys?
Somebody else go first because my bit might be a little longer to an intro to something else.
Sure.
She's gonna segue.
Segue.
Can you repeat the question again?
Describe one of your own perceived limitations that has kept you feeling inadequate and unqualified to pursue whatever dream or endeavor you have come up with.
Adequate. That's kind of tough. I don't know.
Mm.
In my profession, I guess it's in all three of them, like public speaking and audio engineering and video making. Just like Andrew, I think I suffer from feeling like it's the best it could be, or I could do better, or even the work that I do that is well, and I think is really good. At the same time, I'm thinking it's probably like the worst, which doesn't make any sense, but
So perfectionism.
probably, maybe there's a little bit of that, and I don't know if I think there's a healthy way to do that too. I don't know if it's the good or the bad, because the healthy way would be, well, you always want to strive for the best, because I'm doing a work for God. So there's that. But the other unhealthy way is, well, then it's never going to be perfect. So you start cutting corners, or you lose sight of the whole project itself. It's its own thing. So I guess that could be a limitation in itself of just actually not just being content with your experience and your skill in the work that you do.
Oh, I feel that deep in my bones.
Yeah. I think that's where I would kind of fall in line in all of my endeavors for work.
Yeah, I got something.
Go for it,
It's about performance issues, having inadequate experience in the profession, not being able to replicate what you've practiced in secret before people's eyes, or having the patience to really deal with a situation you've maybe read about or heard about or learned about in your actual field of practice. Like some people would say, maybe a good example of this is an athlete. And when it comes to like me, I guess my inadequacy is, well, I don't think I've technically drawn enough to be like a famous drawer, or I've not painted enough to get my artwork sold.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's just it's I classify it kind of as like performance issue. Not that you have to be a perfectionist, because I think perfectionist is the ultimate extreme of that, which I think maybe is what Ernie was maybe talking about. But it's a little bit different, because maybe you just want to be like the average Joe, or maybe you want to be above average a little bit, but you're not seeking to impress. And you still feel like you're falling short of that, basically.
Yeah. I have a different issue altogether. I think it could be like years of being sick, and I'm not sure exactly where it stems from. It also could be partially my upbringing. It's probably a bit of both. Um, I've had difficulty even identifying what is self-deprecating comments. But I have a very good friend out here who has a little bit of purple in his photo, and he's only like the second friend ever, maybe the third, to call me out on those. And because
Oh, wait, I didn't mean to do that.
I was literally talking about you, so that was perfect timing. That's hilarious. Um, it's really been interesting, and it's been a very good exercise for me, especially since I don't recognize those things. I just have like this blindness to it, for friends that I trust to actually point those things out to me, because like Andy Rue has literally said, Lynx, no, we're not going to talk like that. Don't say those things. You don't want to like be self-fulfilling here. And I'm like, oh, what did I say? And then he tells me, and I'm like, wow, I did not catch that I said that. Okay, that's interesting. So it's been a real learning curve for me, this specific one, to start to recognize those things in myself. And it's literally been like this year, like 2023, that I've started recognizing those and coming up with and literally writing down my own rebuttals to what I've just said.
Mm.
And keeping that in a journal, and to the extent of never believing the things that people have said about me are true. So I started writing those down like last year, but the self-deprecating stuff really has only been kind of this year, because I just didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
I was completely blind to it, and I think part of it is recognizing that like it's been generational. In fact, my grandpa just died, and he really was like my dad for all intents and purposes. He has been my dad. My grandma was very much my mother in a lot of scenarios, and losing both of them, I wrote this big eulogy, which I didn't even like read it verbatim. It just was like helpful to write it. And I started thinking about all these different moments throughout history, and I'm like, wow, some of this stuff is so generational. Some of it I turned into positives, but that self-deprecating thing is definitely generational. But it's literally been like since April that I realized that. So my point is, if you have very good, trusted friends that you really genuinely trust, like this person is for all intents and purposes probably like, second to a sibling, or maybe it's even your spouse, like I know my spouse can be really awesome about those things. And hopefully it is your spouse, if you have a spouse. But if you don't, it's got to be a friend that you genuinely trust. And maybe it's your sister or your brother, like your actual sibling. But, say, hey, do I say these things? Do I say self-deprecating things? Am I putting myself down? You could even Google phrases like self-deprecating phrases, and you will get hits on those. Which brings us into the next part. Explain your understanding of the difference between humility and self-deprecating comments.
Mm. Can we talk about that over the game?
Yeah, let's do another food for thought then while we get the game going.
Looks like Hive, you got a game going already. I'm in there.
Oh,
Yes,
cool.
sir.
I will join that game.
I've got some examples as well.
Okay.
I'm
Talk
not
about that while I get into the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to word them, but I can definitely think of some good ones, ones that I've experienced personally that maybe others haven't, or perhaps ones that people have. Well, this is just being vague. I guess the
Okay.
main thing I want to preface is, yeah, I'm gonna try to be like as touchy as possible without going beyond the boundaries of because sometimes people got to recognize you can get into the side of the human psyche which you're basically on the borderline of not just self-deprecating, but some people have so much trauma drilled into them that they cannot see themselves as a like even remotely trying to be a good person, and
Right.
they really need to understand that self-care does exist. So I'm trying to be like very touchy about this subject in particular because I've experienced some things.
Do you mean
Right.
careful? I think you mean
Yeah,
you're saying touchy, but I think you mean careful because if you're being touchy, then that's like something different. At least it is in the U.S.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, I'm Canadian here, so
Yeah, I know. That's why I figured.
there's a couple of
We'll
things.
forgive you.
I'm sure even some Canadians would probably know what I'm talking about. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that they all do, but yeah, like everybody's like, okay, just be chill about it. So that's what I'm going to try and keep it.
Oh yeah, keep it
Mhm.
chill, please. Yes, because basically we're in a podcast here. So
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
the first example. Oh, the game started. The first example, though, that I can think of is obviously people saying, well, I'm just not good enough, which is kind of what I was trying to talk about before. It's like, I'm not good enough to do this effectively, whether you're taking on like a performance art or maybe you want to take on like a trade. Some people, I guess, they don't even have to apply it to a career. They just think, well, I can't go approach this person and talk to them because they're clearly better than me. And that all comes from like a sense of maybe these people have like some beliefs about themselves that they're trying to correct, but they don't really know how to go
somebody's
about it.
clicking a pen. Whoever's clicking a pen, can you please like not click the pen?
I don't think that's a pen. I think that's actually a lock with a key in it.
Okay.
Or a mouse.
Whatever it is. No, it's not a mouse click because nobody's clicking. It's a very
Yeah, but
different.
do you guys kind of know what I'm talking about? I think that's like the biggest example.
Okay. Here we go.
I was super distracted by the clicking. I'm sorry. I'm lost. So we're back to explaining your understanding of the difference between humility and self-deprecation.
Yes. Some people will decide that they want to tell themselves they're not good enough because they want to get to a position of being good enough, but they don't do anything about it because they want to like essentially cloak themselves with a different cloak that they're not accustomed to before they can actually go out and do something that they really want to do. Does that kind of make sense? But because they're suffering from like past distortions of their character.
Yes, but that's a very good point. Yes, very good point. But the question is what is the difference between humility and self-deprecation?
Mhm. There you go. Okay. Humility and self-deprecation. Humility is when you know your faults, when you know your hurts, hangups, habits, the bad things about yourself, and you don't let that get in the way. And you don't generally like you try not to take center stage. You try not to grab all the credit for something. You try not to um, be a you try not to hog the spotlight.
Mm.
And self-deprecating is putting yourself down, um, not giving yourself credit where you have done good.
Mhm.
I think self-deprecating people find it difficult to, accept compliments. Um, yeah.
I'm really glad you said that one, because that's definitely one that was one reason I started writing down the things that people said about me. Because like I had heard the same things repeatedly, and it was literally over the course of a few months, and I was like, why does everybody keep saying this? I do not see this. I don't see it at all. There's no way that that's what I do. Somebody said it
Mm,
again. Somebody said it again. And then I think it was actually our mutual boss, Andy Rue, who said, no, this is true. You need to believe this about yourself. And I was like, oh, maybe I should write that down, because I don't think that it's within my abilities to believe that. It's just not there. It's not a foundation that I have. And so I did then. So I started writing them down. And that was extremely helpful. Um,
so humility is the modest or low view of one's own importance. And
Right. And I think we would say true humility is realizing that our dependence is on God and not so much ourself, right?
yeah.
So people can mistake humility for self-deprecation sometimes, but true
Right.
humility is giving, not giving up, but giving in and giving it to someone else, and that for us is God.
Yeah. And
whereas self-deprecating, I like this definition. You're critical of oneself, especially humorously so.
True. Very
Like,
deflective.
right, very trying to be you criticize yourself to the point of, it's like we were saying before, you wouldn't actually say those things to somebody else and get away with it without getting punched in the face.
that
That's
is
fair.
how similar, not quite as literal, but that is how um, that person said it to me. Yes.
I mean, that's kind of usually when people tell like racial jokes, they try to aim it at their own ethnicity so that it's less offensive to other people. Like there's kind of that unwritten rule where you say, "Oh, we can make fun of ourselves as a people because we know our own struggles and what we've been through," and it's kind of like, okay, maybe that opens up a can of worms, but basically, we have the right to do that. All right. So there's all kinds of levels.
It's going to be a rough game.
Yeah, I'd also like to say, like, with the whole idea we were talking about with humility being this concept of you're kind of you're brought down to a certain level, but you're not like forcefully trying to gravitate yourself to a higher level. You're kind of like content in your circumstance. You don't really need to go anywhere, but you still want to improve. It's not bad to want to improve, but I think like self-deprecating people, what they'll do without even realizing it is they want to just get to that fallout as soon as possible. They're in a race and they have not learned to be content with their circumstances and their faults, like we were talking about.
Yeah, contentness is really big.
Yeah,
And we were just talking last week about the boasting tongue. And I think, the humble person isn't going to ask to sit at the head of the table. The self-deprecating person is going to probably be like, "Oh, that small chair over there in the corner is for me, isn't it?" You know, they don't want to sit at the head of the table. They're not even going to think about it. Instead, they're going to be looking at the one little chair in the corner that's all by itself and think that's their spot.
Right. Right. Because they've conditioned themselves to be that person,
Yes.
even though probably in actuality that would never happen. Someone probably wouldn't say that.
I'm sure the conditioning is actually partially their upbringing and then partially school experiences and then partially their own personal things they've dealt with, gone through.
Yeah, I would agree too. Like a domino effect that all kind of
Oh yeah, for
cascades.
sure.
Yeah.
And likewise, I would say that through therapy and good friendships that are with honest people, upright people, you know, godly people, it's been being able to put all those dominoes back up.
Mhm.
Absolutely, because you can kind of break down those habitual habits, if you will, social habits, those intrusive thoughts. The list goes on, but it's recognizing what those things are too, to actually try to overcome them. Which, guess what, is easier if you have a God that helps you reveal the weak points of your character. It'll help you, which is really cool.
And that's that trust, faith in God that that we have to remember. I love the verse that says, "We are His children, we are His heirs." Because there's a meme that went around for a while that wasn't really a meme, but it kind of was, but in a positive meme. And it's this little girl and she's straightening her crown. And it says, "When I remember who the king is, I can straighten my crown."
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I really like that because I think it's easy as in our human selves to forget that we are His children, we are His heirs. But when we remember that, it's a lot easier to trust Him. It's a lot easier to be like, oh, yeah, I am a child of the Most High.
Right.
And this person sitting next to me is a child of the Most High. You know, my husband is a child of the Most High. It's a lot easier to treat each other like I would imagine kings and queens would treat each other, although that's probably not true. But it's a lot. We won't go there. It's a lot easier to do that when you go, oh wait, this is a child of the Most High.
Right.
So, even if that person doesn't believe, they're still a child of the Most High. They just haven't accepted their heir to the throne.
Right. Well, you change all the circumstances. Now here we are with this wonderful word of assurance of how truly valuable you are as an individual, like to be a child of God, inherit the kingdom. Like that's a big deal. And because of that status, if you will, there's probably a better word for it. Like we start to look at others differently. Like we want to help others to also inherit the kingdom. And there's like an equality in this hierarchy, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Because we have God on our side, which is good. It's a healthy thing for sure. But sometimes Christians can go the other route, but they're really uppity, like I'm better than everyone kind of thing. But that's not what we're talking about today.
uppity. The uppity tongue.
Yes.
I think we're going to cover that later. So let's save those. We'll save
chapter
those
100.
for later.
Bonus chapter.
No, I think we are going to go down that road. There is, I'm going to read this as 2 Corinthians 9:8. This is from the NIV. It says, "God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." And I think that's probably true because we literally can't do any of those things without Him. Like it would be impossible. We're too sinful. This world is too sinful. We wouldn't even have the desire to, it wouldn't be there.
True.
So those feelings and attitudes would be all about what can you give me? What can I do to get ahead? It's a very different line of thought.
Yeah, because it's saying those grace will be abound to you. Like it'll be I don't want to say sent to you, but that would be kind of the best thing. Like there's nothing in yourself that you can do to gain that for yourself. Like it's a gift. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Hive, would you like to read Ephesians 3:20?
Yeah, sure. What translation?
Um,
I actually have an amplified New Testament here.
that would be great, actually.
So Ephesians 5:20, you said?
No, 3:20.
3:20. Okay, yeah, because I'm just flipping there. Don't worry, I'm almost there. 3:20 says, "Now to him who, by, in consequence of, the action of his power that is at work within us, is able to carry out his purpose and do superabundantly, far over and above all that we dare ask or think, infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desires, thoughts, hopes, or dreams." Should I continue on to 21?
Yeah, finish that thought that's
To,
there.
to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. So be it.
Wow, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you guys a question about that. Is there a time in your life that you can think of, and if you're willing to share, great. But is there a time in your life that you can think of when God went like way above and beyond anything you could possibly imagine or had imagined up until that point, and then it like happened in your life?
I got stories for years. I could be here all day.
I like to hear some.
Way above. I don't know. I really have so many things I could say at this moment. I'll tell you what. Some of you guys know my background. Like I got kicked out of the house when I was 18, right? All this kind of stuff. I got into the world. I was homeless, house to house. I'll spare you the details, but ended up learning about spiritual things, having a great interest because of some Bible studies on the book of Daniel and Revelation, prophecy. It led me down the road to finally get into a relationship with God and learn a lot more and really build a connection with him. So all that to say, I was this homeless kid at one point, and then very little bit, not even a few years ago, I had the great opportunity to build a home for me and my wife. So for me, looking back, especially, and I try to remind myself of this as much as possible, I was a homeless kid that ended up building a home for my family. You know what I mean? Like you want to talk about how far God can take an individual just because of your circumstances. Like he made a homeless person build a house. Like that's amazing. The more I think about it, just
I
something
thought you were going to tell the coin story.
that it could have done. Maybe a different time.
You got to save something.
I like that example. That is,
But I like that example.
It is the parable of. Is there a parable to that?
I wouldn't sell ourselves short. I mean, just because you think your circumstances are so bad doesn't mean God can't use those things for good. Like, especially, I mean, just to double down on what I was saying, like I lived out of a hamper. Like that's all I had. I had all my clothes in a hamper, and then now I get into ministry many years later, and I live out of a suitcase. Like, so for years when I was homeless, he was preparing me even in that to do the work that I'd be doing only a few years later. Like, so nothing is ever wasted with God.
That's awesome to look at it that way. That makes me think of something else in my own life that I'm not going to talk about, but that's so awesome to look at it that way. I really like that.
Yeah. And I think it's good for us to look back on stuff like that. I mean, those times were hard and it was rough and I didn't feel like God was there, but every time I look back, like it's more apparent that he was, and he was working, he was doing amazing stuff. I just didn't know it, because I wasn't listening or didn't want to know.
Anybody want to take pink?
No, right?
Apparently not. I'll take some.
Oh, this is the most obvious verse, and I don't even want to say it, but I see David 64 is typing, and he can probably think of the verse that I'm thinking of. But it's the verse that everybody knows. 4:13. Where do you find it?
God uses damaged people to help others see how he can make perfection.
Amen.
Yeah, there's so much to be said about having a testimony where we often want to have this like super action-packed testimony, and that can be self-deprecating in some cases, like, oh, I don't have this wonderful testimony, I wasn't on drugs, I didn't go to jail, I don't have nothing. And it's like, what, you want to go to prison so that God can be close to you? You don't need to do that, like, right?
Right. You get in
You
your own
can,
head.
right? So it's kind of like where we live in a culture that kind of is not humble about those types of experiences, like, oh, this is what you need to have, and like, praise the Lord, we're gonna bring that drug addict up front and praise them. Whereas, kind of like the parable of the two sons, aka the parable of the prodigal son.
Right.
I would much rather like it as the parable of the I'll take the pinks there, the parable of the two sons, because the son who's stayed with him the whole time is, he's the perfectionist. He's the, hey, haven't I been here the whole time and done everything? Like, I thought I meant something to you, and I didn't go out and waste my inheritance and go around gallivanting, waltzing
Right.
around. And yeah, so the testimony of being able to be humble enough to see who you are and how God has moved in your life. Because in a way, we're saying, oh, I didn't go through trouble. I'm the one who kept myself pure,
That's fair.
and it's kind of like we're saying that God hasn't done any work in us. And so the humility is taking some time to ask God, okay, what do you want me to share with people? How can I communicate to them what you've done for me, and make that worthwhile?
That's fair. That's a good topic. I don't think enough people talk about, like, I think I heard it from some other video I watched online or something. They said boring testimonies is how they titled it. But when you think about, especially as a Christian that grows up in the church, and then you see these people that are convert, over to the church, it is kind of that story where the converted person, it was in this really bad place or at the bottom of the barrel, and they have this crazy story between drugs or action, like you said, action packed, all this kind of stuff. But then this person that's been in the church pew, their whole lives learning stuff, like they get in their own head about, well, I don't really have anything of a value to share, which is completely a non-biblical thing, because almost all the accounts that we read in our wonderful Bible are like already believers, that fall short and then overcome. Like there is very few, if not any, converted, an unbeliever to a believer that we find in Scripture, if that makes any sense. So it's the way God. There's a phrase that I've heard in my line of work that is, God doesn't. He doesn't. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting it. God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. Is kind of the thing. And if we can do that, then we wouldn't be so self-deprecating. When God chooses us, if we are all chosen, which we know we are, then we would think of things differently, I think is what I'm saying. Anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but I thought it was worth sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to clarify about the called part too, because I know it's been said by many other people, oh, they think they're a prophet because they think they're called. Well, no, the fact is that everyone that has been born on this planet has been called. Every single person.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, are you saying yes to God or are you saying yes to the world?
Mhm.
Those are your two options. There's really only two.
Right.
Right.
Because there's a lot of choices in that are not I want to say they're masking as other religions, but they're really not. It's just a very worldly decision because they still are stemming from the enemy, not God. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
I think you were going to say something, Andy.
That's a good point.
I kind of lost my train of thought.
Oh, pun intended.
Well, yeah. Okay, can you play that back? What was that last comment? the comment section got me. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So right now we're playing Prophecy Quest. We're playing Ticket to Ride, and
Ticket to Ride.
we're all gathering our cards so that we can lay down our trains, and then whoever has the most points wins, and there's points awarded for the longest train, and so we're going all over the place. And I think this could really easily be adapted to like a ministry context.
Oh, for real, for real.
And maybe you have to, I don't know, answer. We can fit the Bible in there somewhere.
Always. It's a very good conversational game because it gives you time to go back and forth without being fast paced.
And easy to learn, hard to
I
master.
do have another question on the topic. Do you guys want another question?
Sure.
Absolutely.
This is a little bit more, this is going to take some thinking for all of you, but I'm going to type it out too for those out there watching later. What negative label has someone imposed upon you that you have accepted as truth?
Oof.
I'm going to say it again. What negative label has someone imposed upon you that you have accepted as truth?
I don't know if it's explicit, but I've definitely some of my personal issues have, stemmed from feeling like I don't deserve to be loved, or that's pretty much it. It's a nail on the head.
Not loved, yeah, that's fair. Mine's like not being appreciative, like I'm ungrateful. That's been something that has stuck with me since I was a little kid.
Man,
can mine be a physical attribute?
Probably.
Well,
it really did mess with me in like every way. I was always too tall. I was too tall for jazz. I was too tall for gymnastics. I was too tall for swimming. I was too tall to play baseball. I was too tall to date this guy. This girl didn't want to be friends with me because I was too tall. I couldn't wear these clothes because I was too tall. That's an actual literal thing. It was just like everything. Oh, I couldn't fit in this car because I was too tall. Like, it really honestly wasn't until I had been married to my husband for a few years, who is much taller than me, that I was like, oh, I'm actually comfortable in my own skin now. It's really weird, but I heard it from the people I trusted the most, like my grandpa, my grandma, my mom, my great-grandparents, my friends, people I liked, people who decided they didn't like me. It was always that. In fact, recently I just like during the ultra pandemic time, there was a guy from like grade school that found me on Facebook and said that he really wished he had asked me out when I was younger, but he thought I was too tall.
Aww.
And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like everything about me is too tall, so I guess I'm too tall. Okay, great. But like, praise God that I have, for the most part, broken that belief system about myself. Because physical attributes you can't really change about yourself, can you? It just is.
Right. It's a limitation. Like, it's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Go
'Cause
for it.
it's along the lines of kind of what you were saying, Links. Physical attributes. For me, like I am also a very tall individual, but even when I was younger, I was like a chubbier kid, and some people would use that as a means of trying to call me like fat, basically. So that's kind of something that, whether I knew it or not, was like sticking to me, and now that's, I guess,
Yeah.
what kind of attributes to my personality of wanting to go to the gym and stuff like that now. So
Yeah.
just
definitely
that's one of the more sensitive things that I will say, because there's a lot that I could go into, but yeah.
Alrighty.
I think that's a lot of people's stories, like a lot of people's stories, male and female. So you've crossed into a whole nother area. But again, I think it's those things that people say to us when we're quite young, like I would say 6th grade and under, that tend to stick with us the longest. In fact, the age up until 11, 12 are your most formative years. In
Very
fact,
spongy.
you're very spongy. Yes, your brain is just absorbing everything. And if you start to build up false beliefs without trusted people like parents, grandparents saying, well, no, that's not true about you. This is what's true about you, And I think the truth that I wish. So here's a question before I say this. What is a truth that you wish people had instilled in you about yourself when you were younger?
That my worth wasn't based on my abilities.
Ooh,
That's a good one.
that is a good
Yeah,
one.
because I got a
Especially-
lot of praise for my creative talents, and I milked that for what it's worth, because that's how I felt, appreciated and praised. And so I did. I
Yeah.
felt that I did feel appreciated, but then I became very kind of cocky about and boastful, I guess, more appropriate word, to my talents. And yeah, it was rough to deal with. Let's do that.
Wish some things I wish they would have done more. That's kind of tough.
Or a truth that you know now, but you're like, wow, I wish I'd known that when I was like 14 or,
Right. Well, I don't know. I have one that's like, my family's always been like, oh, you're really articulate. You're really good with your hands and all this kind of stuff. You're so smart. They would say all that kind of stuff. And then academically, I would struggle immensely. And I was under all this pressure my whole life of like trying to do well academically, but I physically could not. Even my best effort was like fleeting. So I wish they would have seen the opposite side of like, they are trying to say this and they're forcing me to do that, even though this is past my limitations. I think not to give up on me. They should always push your children to do the best that they can. You get me? You guys understand? But like to not continue that pressure when obviously it wasn't working.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm too young to answer that. I don't think I've had enough life experience yet to really
Well, I think you can think of something if you had thought about it long enough.
It's true.
Yeah, but nothing like your guys' answers.
Well, I've actually haven't answered yet. I'm trying to think of one too. So let's just try to think of one. But yeah, it's something that is a belief that you have about yourself now that you know is true because of maybe it's even because of your relationship with God that you wish you'd known when you were younger.
Maybe yeah, yeah. What's a false expectation you have on yourself, and that you would want to correct? That you would want somebody to come along and say, "Hey, that's not true,"
Right. I'd stick with the answer that you just gave, Andrew, about it's more than what, or what did you say about
my worth isn't based on my abilities.
That's right. That's what I was trying to. Yeah.
Yeah, my trains are complete.
Excellent.
Um, okay, I have to. I really like Andy Ruse, but I will say the other one I wish that I had realized when I was younger was that I really could trust God. And I think I went through so much trauma at a very young age that it was really difficult. I
Mhm.
understood prayer really well, but that was it. I didn't really understand a lot of other things about God. And I wish that while prayer was so instilled upon me, I really wish that somebody had instilled upon me that I actually could trust God despite all of these things. And that agenda was not really pushed on me like prayer was. And I'm sure my family was like, well, because there's multiple people in my life that were pushing prayer, but that if I kept praying, it would be okay. And granted, eventually that was the truth of the matter, but it was really hard to get to that point of really, really trusting God with me, with all of my choices, with everything that I want to do, with everything I don't want to do.
Hmm.
So I think that not just prayer, but that trusting, I really can trust God. These things that happened to me were not from God. Which when we have like natural disasters and stuff, and this is the most basic illustration I can think of, but it is said even on the news. How do they say it? It's even in insurance. It says an act of God. Well, no, it was not an act of God. I would say it was probably more of an act of the enemy in a world gone haywire. But these were not acts of God. But likewise, at a very young age, these horrible things would happen. Not that I was saying in my mind, oh, this is an act of God. It was just more of a kind of a stunned situation.
Right.
So I think we need to instill in each other trust. We can trust God. We can believe these things. Dig into the promises with the younger people around us.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think we could do more. And I think there could be an opposite to self-deprecating. Like we can be exceptionally positive. Like I've run across a few videos about parenting, and they said they raise their children by saying things like, my kid's the best. They never do anything wrong. They're really good. They're really good. They're a really good student. And they kind of like in these conversations with other parents or around jury or their peers. And because they said that, the kid or the individual actually lived up to those standards. You know what I mean? So a lot of the times, as
Right.
us know, like the parents are the opposite, where it's like my kid's the worst and they don't listen and blah blah blah. Well, then they
Yeah.
start to perpetuate that their whole life. So if
Yes.
we can take that and apply it to our day-to-day life, like instead of
Mhm.
being self-deprecating, if we admonished one another, which is what the Bible talks about, it can be very beneficial to us as an individual. But we have to be able to recognize what self-deprecating and what admonishing is. We have to know the difference between humility and self-deprecation, kind of in that.
I have a really good example of that. That's a very real example that I've seen here. And granted, I know somebody will probably come after me later and say, like, well, that's not entirely true, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, this is true with this individual that they were saying the professionals to the parents are saying, well, your kid is really severely autistic. We need to put them in special classes. We need to get them into speech therapy. We need to, do all these different things. And the parents were like, so, they went home, they talked, and they're like, so basically what you're saying, they're talking to friends and stuff. And like, so basically what they're saying is like, we need to accept our kid has all these disabilities, even though there's physically nothing wrong with them, and we're never going to be able to get around them. That's what they're saying, right? And they didn't want to accept that. They said, no, we're not going to go that route. They did speech therapy for a little bit. They kind of got ahead and they're like, nope, we're going to do this at home. We're going to do this together. We don't need to do this and
Mhm.
and expose them to this type of environment that's very clinical and very unwelcoming. And then they said, well, you know, now guess what? We can't have them in these classes. They're with a bunch of actually really severely like mentally ill children that are, and I know that's not the like totally PC term, so I apologize in advance. I'm just repeating the situation at the time. And they were really upset because their child was not getting attention. Their child was obviously bored and acting out even more. And they said, nope, this isn't working. We're putting them back in regular classes. And the school said, nope, we're not going to accept your kid in other classes. So they moved. They changed. Wow. They actually moved out of state to change the situation. And they said, guess what? We moved. This is our new address. We found a great school. Kid is doing great. Kid graduates high school, valedictorian, you know, and is becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
So here's my point. These are parents that did not let their child ever believe that they were autistic. They never let their child believe that they had Asperger's. They never let their child believe that they had a speech impediment. Never. They said, you're better than all these other kids because you have the better abilities. Not that that was the best way to say that, but let's just go with it.
Just positive reinforcement.
Yes, they were saying, you don't have a speech impediment. Your speech is fantastic. Listen to you. You just recited that entire poem and it was beautiful. You did a great job. So as all of this positive reinforcement is just, it's the most amazing thing. I used to actually be severely suicidal. This is before like God and I really got together. And after I came out of that phase of life, I started doing this positive thing that I learned from my counselor, which was for every negative thought, think of 2 positive thoughts, which is really easy, but it wasn't easy. I would have negative thoughts and go, oh, I don't know what I'm going to think of. What can I possibly think of? And then, oh, we got Hive back.
Who's missing?
He's back. Yes.
Because the internet dropped out.
Yeah, my internet just like died, and then I had to connect to my data.
Oh no. So, but that exercise, that really tiny exercise, and I will be very blunt and say that even if I had a negative thought about myself, I was just saying positive things about whatever. Like, it's a beautiful day and there's a breeze. You know?
Okay.
Even though it had nothing to do with the negative thought that I just had, I was just coming up with 2 positives about anything, just to counter the negative thoughts. So if I had 3 negative thoughts, then I had to come up with 6 things, 1 for each one. But then it became automatic.
Yeah.
That was it. I was done. It became automatic, and then I was able to not really think about it. I just kind of did it.
There's a power in positivity for sure. Just like there's a power in negativity and how draining it can be, consuming. Doesn't the Bible talk about we should focus on the good things? Like, doesn't the Bible talk about how we should, Paul talks about it, right? If it's good, if it's, what does he say? Dwell about these things.
Whatever's pure, good, holy, just, lovely, beautiful, fabulous. Think on these things.
But I wonder why that's there. You know what I mean?
In fact, in our server, oneacordtheguild.com, you can join us. There's a link to our server on Discord, and we would love to have you there to join us. We actually have a really nice channel there that is, we have like a prayer and praise channel, which is fantastic, but we have a gratitude journal, and we all just keep adding to it, which is great. And it's really important to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and be thanking God regularly for things that happened in your day.
should say.
You know, that's something else that that I had to really come to terms with. It wasn't something that was necessarily ingrained in me, like in some harsh way, but the fact that things could actually get better, like it seemed
Mm,
in my maturity experience, like things were always, or I think I always felt like, oh, things are always going to be, you know, on the edge of stress, and like they'll never get better. It's always going to be stressful. It's always going to be, um, there's always going to be some, you know, something hurtful around the corner, something, you know, tragic, something. But yeah, that may be true, but to believe that things can actually get better and that I can progress and that I'm looking forward to um, progress. And, you know, we talk about these things to not so, you know, we talk about our issues, our problems on this platform. When we talk about these things, not so that we can pity ourselves and feel bad and, you know, dredge up old things and and hurt ourselves even further, but so that we can actually learn from those experiences and move forward and you know, get traction, figure out, oh, this is where I need improvement, and this is where I can improve, because with God's help, I can improve. You know.
yeah.
Hmm.
And by sharing those experiences that maybe were so traumatic and sharing how we got through them, I think it also kind of justifies them for us in that, oh, God has brought me through that. Oh, look at that. I remember the first few times I told my testimony that it just kind of happened, and it was just so organic that I wasn't really thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told it, I was like, wow, oh, I didn't realize that about my story. Oh God, that's so cool. So then it really was even showing me parts of my story that I wasn't expecting, you know, that I hadn't seen, that were like, I mean, God was there through all of it, but there was parts of it where I wasn't necessarily trying to point, you know, the arrow at God, but it definitely was God. And there's no possible way for it not to have been God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this game.
We're
Rough game.
winding down. We've been at it for a while.
We have
I
been.
think this will take us through the whole. Well, I'm down to 6 cars.
Cars?
Cars, cart,
Cars. Are you
locomotives.
cardas?
No,
Or
it's train cars.
Carts. Carts.
Car.
Cars. They're train cars. They are.
Are
Are they
cars. They're train cars.
trolleys?
Train cars.
You guys
No,
ain't
the-
never ridden the train before?
The
6
trolley is
trolleys.
at the end. No, that's at the end.
Well,
Train
to me,
cars.
these are
Oh.
all at the end now because we're almost at the end. So.
No.
Down to the final 8.
6.
Well,
8,
for you.
6, and 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've made a mistake,
Oh no.
but it's okay because I can still probably come back
Okay.
and then draw another ticket.
Maybe.
Well, I hope it works out for you.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
You guys, you came in there.
Yeah.
You took my space.
I'm so sorry.
It's a tough life, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to see if there's something else I wanted to touch on as we're winding down, at least on this game. Oh, well, I did ask this question one way, but I'm going to ask it another way. What negative label has someone tried to impose upon you that you have rejected?
Ooh.
Somebody has tried to impose this belief on you and you rejected it.
Yeah, the not very generous label. Pretty much, I've rejected that one.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting.
Anything like people just trying to put you down, calling you a loser, those labels I like instantly reject.
That's fair. I would kind of say the same thing. Like if someone's saying that I am something that, or if someone's trying to say that I am something, and then I'm like, absolutely not. Like I'll always reject it, kind of thing. I have a lot of examples of that, but if you say this about me and it's not true, like I just don't agree with you. And then you can say all you want and talk to whoever you want, like it's never going to affect me. I am my own person.
Okay, please somebody go out because I'm like, I'm just done. I'm done with this.
You're done.
Okay, you're just picking cards to look pretty.
Yep. And let me drop another one of these.
My.
Oh
It's
no.
kind of like you're playing hangman there. I see the arms and the legs.
Right.
He's like, can this just be over now, please?
Okay. Nope. Still got cards to lay down.
I didn't even know that a train could technically go over the
One more, Andy Roo.
water like that.
Oh,
I don't know if
Maestro's
anybody's-
drawn brown cards. Woo, risky.
Very risky. I'm not gonna lie.
Who's drawing brown? What
Just
what are you doing?
somebody.
You
end
got
it.
4 cards left. Got 4 train cards left.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Andy Roo, I thought you were gonna change your ogre face icon that's on here.
Is that an ogre? Oh, Andy Ruse. Yeah.
What?
It's a little scary.
The
Little
little
ogre.
ogre face, the green,
Your avatar.
your avatar.
Good for you guys. I don't even have an avatar.
I don't
true.
see it. Oh yeah, yeah. I gotta log into their website and figure out how to do that.
This is not gonna end well.
Ogre. Oh, I see it on your screen. It's funny because I don't see my own avatar.
Yeah, I
True.
don't see my own either.
I see yours. I see all 3 of yours, and I can't see mine because I don't. Actually, no, you can see yours. What are you guys
All right,
talking
team.
about?
Are we going out?
Look in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll see your avatar.
Oh yeah, you have to click on it. It'll come up.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Mine's still a cat, I hope.
Yeah, it is.
Is that
An
a cat?
angry cat.
Angry cat, yelling cat.
I thought it was like a
Mm,
muskrat or
2
something.
train cars left.
Could be. Could be like
Gonna
a.
go.
What are those?
I don't
Like,
know.
maybe a ferret.
What does a muskrat look like?
Alvin chipmunks.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have the last
Yeah.
turn here.
I know. I'm just
I
trying
thought
to
it was like
figure
a
out
white
the
muskrat.
best
Put it somewhere.
situation.
I see it. I'm looking at your screen now.
Do
Okay,
it.
I'm officially looking at your screen. I'm screen peeking. It doesn't even matter.
It
Doesn't
doesn't
even
matter at this point.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Right. It's just somewhere.
Okay, it's my turn now. Draw
move.
another
Make
ticket.
it work.
Draw
And I
another ticket.
I never got.
What
are you
Brother, what are you
doing?
I
doing?
never got. I never. I'm not gonna win.
See if there's anything that connects. You know.
Don't
You
be
never know.
self-deprecating. We
I
gotta
dare
believe.
you, Andy Roo, to take a brown card right now. Do it.
I don't think it's
no.
self-deprecation in this instance.
That's one thing I'm not going to believe.
There it is.
That I
Rejected.
need to draw a brown card.
Fair. That's fair.
That's
All right,
so
let me
funny.
just skip to the end. I'm
Don't
not
skip
even
to
gonna
the
watch
end. Don't
it.
tell us.
Yeah, that is
Don't tell
just. Well, I'm not gonna tell you, but it's pretty all right for you guys.
Well, we're watching it, so let us watch it and find out.
I'm watching it with you guys now. Don't worry
Excellent.
Oh.
Real time. No.
Oh, we get that one. No.
Oh.
Oh, you're shrinking.
No.
Oh, bro.
Wow, dude.
about it. No,
This is
this
rough.
is where it gets
Ooh,
even worse.
hurts.
There you go.
Eek.
No.
It
That was not
hurts.
great.
Woo. Ooh, that's a good one.
Nice.
I'm bringing it all to town.
Good, good, good. A roundabout way of getting there.
Super weird. You got there.
That
though.
was a
Oh,
super
you had
roundabout way.
you had the Denver card. Oh
El
man,
Paso.
he had Denver to El Paso.
Yeet.
It's true.
Wow, nice.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Whoa.
Oh, that was also a good one. My bad.
I'm not
That's
even gonna
pretty good
say
too.
who wins. I already know who
Okay.
won.
Oh!
Okay. Show
I
off.
think Maestro won.
Whoa.
My bad. My bad.
Wait,
Maestro,
okay.
you won. I bet
4, 10,
It's pretty good.
you did.
17. Solid.
7.
Oh my. Who got the longest track?
I
though?
think it.
Hey, Andrew.
Oh, I did. Wait, I
Yo.
did.
You sure
Yeah,
did.
you did get the longest track.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
Yes,
you had some really long ones
Maestro.
in there.
Yeah.
If I
Good
would have,
one.
if I would have had my original plan to conquer the world, then I would have won. But you guys, somebody else.
I
put
mean,
those in the
it's
way.
really hard to surpass. He got a 20, a 22, a 21, and a 17. I mean,
Yeah, they just
the deck was stacked for you.
it functionally it just yeah, it's multiplied. It's like factorial. So
That was crazy.
good
Awesome.
game.
Are we playing
GG.
again?
Good
'Cause
game.
No, I think that's it for tonight. I think this is probably the longest that we've actually talked about the topic too.
Is it really though? No,
It
I
feels
don't
like
think it is.
It's not because it's only a quarter till 9.
Okay,
True.
yeah, and we've played to like 9:30 before. We've had
Yeah.
more people on too, but
Hmm.
good game. I need
We
to go
stayed
get
on
something to
topic this
eat.
time.
Yeah.
We did stay on topic mostly. Yeah. That was good. We didn't really have any prayer requests come in today. Just a reminder to please like this video if you enjoyed it, even if you're watching it later.
Ding, ding. Click it right now. We appreciate it.
Give us the thumbs up. We would love that. And of course, if you are not a part of our server, we would love for you to join us and dig into more topics like this. We have Bible studies every Saturday. We have this every Tuesday. We've got a huge Minecraft event coming up.
Let's see. Is it
September
this
3rd.
one? No, we already built Jericho, and now we're going to
We're gonna tear the walls down.
we're gonna wreck it. I'm gonna
Mhm.
wreck it. Well, I won't wreck it. They will wreck it.
It's not that one. That's the wrong one.
No. But I mean, this has been an OAG Hangout production
That's
with
right.
Andy Roo 42 and Complete Links. We're so
Yes.
glad you joined us. Any final words, ladies and gentlemen?
If you have a lot of self-deprecating thoughts, you should write them down and write rebuttals to them and come up with some positives for that, self-deprecating thought.
Yep, things are going to get better. You're going to progress. You're going to overcome your character flaws, but sometimes it takes some time, and God's there with you. He sees what you're going through. He cares, and that's what matters most. To believe that and come to Jesus every day. So, all right, gang. So glad you joined us, and we shall see you next time here on the OAG Hangout.